Thank you. This is Openmike. We are back to the final segment of our program. You know, the time just goes so very quickly. There's one item which I want to focus on, and that is the recent comments by Kamala Persad-Bissau, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, encouraging OECS members to piggyback on their foreign embassies, on her foreign embassies, including China, as a major step in the right, which appears to be a major step in the right direction, because it is, should I say, there's an indication by 2020, China will be one of the largest, the Chinese people will be the largest group of people traveling as tourists around the world. I mean, right now, as we all know, in the Bahamas, there's a hotel, I think it's 3,500 rooms to the tune of $1.25 billion being constructed. And what they have done, they brought in 3 or 4 hotels within that complex, okay? So, as we very well know, that Ever Air flies to Panama, and Panama to the Bahamas is just an hour and something. So you can see that there is a new trend. We talk of going to new markets, and I think this is an area we need to focus upon. Panama is exceptionally important to all of us. Now we'll turn to the subject of embassies. You know, it has been a subject of mine on many programs that we are spending far too much money in embassies and actually getting very little in return for it. If the Prime Minister of Trinidad is now saying to us in the Caribbean, please use our embassies, we could reduce our costs tremendously, and I've always advocated that we should be working far closer with Trinidad, because of their wealth, their oil wealth, and also Caribbean Airlines. In the hotel industry, to many of our small hotels, the regional business represents almost 50%. 50%. And we do not spend as much money on them, these islands, as we spend, say, in the US, UK, and Canada. So why aren't we focusing on that part of the business? Jeremy?
Well, Mike, I think it shows a lot of the regional thought process that has to take place. Each of the small independent OECS nations and the CARICOM nations themselves find it very difficult in today's economic times to sustain a presence all around the world. You know, you can look back at the strength of West Indies cricket when we were the champions of the world, and as a result of the combined strength of the islands, we were able to conquer much larger, much greater islands and destinations with better cricket playing history. I think we need to tear a page out of that book and look at how we can consolidate the island strength as well. If Trinidad, or any other island for that matter, has an avenue or an opportunity in a vast marketplace like China, and there's an opportunity for us to piggyback using what they have already established, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. And I think that will help with the whole regional integration, because the thing that separates us is the Caribbean Sea, and it's the thing that actually joins us all together. And we still do not take advantage of that strength.
You know, somebody wrote an article last week, I think it was The Voice or one of them, where China is hoping to have at least 150 or 250 cricket teams, and they're actually looking at the Caribbean because they have recognized we are small, and this is our main sport, cricket. And the individual who wrote the article indicated that if we could try to link ourselves with China now, that would be a good link for our tourism industry. And I think it's great because we know what sports do in the world today. You know? What's your take on that?
No, it's very clear that the piecemeal, individualized approach towards penetrating some of these markets and trying to unlock some of these economies of scale is just not working. There needs to be a lot more consolidated effort in terms of how we approach regional travel, how we present our presence in these new markets. And we need to have a lot more discussion on that consolidated approach and the framework that it can take.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it is just, you know, it's all well and good saying that we're looking for new markets, but I don't think we should look for new markets that are away from our grasp at this time. I mean, Russia, recently, I think it was Cuthbert Didier who spoke about the yachting industry, and I thought it was excellent. The only little hiccup I see now is what's happening in Ukraine, how much of a dampener that's going to put on Mr. Putin and his people. But there are many Russians in the region who are not really in favor of what he's doing over there, and who are likely probably to want to spend more time here in the Caribbean with their money. So this is an area we really need to focus on, because we got to make that pie bigger, you know what I mean? We cannot just depend on all the same markets over and over. By the same token, we cannot forget the UK, we cannot forget the US. These are our traditional markets, okay?
It's true. There is room for more long-term strategies on how we penetrate new and emerging markets. It's very clear. But then there are tremendous benefits to be had within the more short term, primarily within the regional market, for example, and some of these other traditional markets that continue to hold very strong and prove very promising. I don't think one has to be pursued at the expense of the other.
Okay.
But I think what we lack are clear strategies as to how we would approach both groups. Those that have the potential to grow within the very short term, those that we already have a presence in, such as the regional market, that we're doing a lackluster job of accommodating locally, and which presents a lot of potential for our small and medium-sized properties on the island. And then juxtapose that against what we need in order to effect as more longer-term strategies towards penetrating potential areas like Panama, Brazil, China, Russia, and these other.
Now tell me something, back to the region. If I want to call it a threat, or the comments made by Ralph Gonzalez, that if St. Lucia and St. Kitts don't come up with the necessary funding, that certain actions would have to be taken. I view this thing as being very serious, very, very serious. And what is it can be done from your side of the SLHTA and your members? I mean, can't we do something whereby we can talk to the powers that be to use Caribbean Airlines a bit more, even in the interim, to help out? Because we should not allow a break in our transportation to take place. This is going to be disastrous for us. Totally, totally disastrous.
Absolutely correct. And like we've seen in the past, our dependence on one particular carrier
it never works.
It just does not work, and we allow ourselves to be held hostage. And when there is a hiccup or a delay, there is just such a ripple effect right through the economy, and how that affects primarily our smaller properties that depend a lot on this transportation and regional transportation.
It's amazing. In Bahamas, Jeremy, you're probably familiar with that. Bahamas has a population, what, 400,000? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand there are about 8 or 10 airlines that fly
traveling through the islands.
Between.
Yeah.
Now I know it's a number of islands, okay, but they never seem to have that problem, you know, of getting from A to B, you know. What is your take?
I think, you know, you're looking at, yes, the archipelago of the Bahamas is 700 islands, and there may be about 15 or 20 of them that are serviced by airlift throughout the region. But it's one Bahamas. Yeah. It's one airspace.
Yes, right.
I think for the OECS and some of the rest of the Caribbean islands, we probably need to find a way to establish a one airspace flight. Every time one of the Liat aircraft or Caribbean aircraft touches down in a destination or a jurisdiction, there's an additional tax that is going to be paid. Aircrafts don't make money on the ground, they make money in the air.
Correct.
So you need to keep them flying.
That's
now,
right.
whether you're going to fly point to point for longer flights and use smaller aircraft for shorter frequencies, that's something that we need to look into. But if you ever print off an airline ticket from the regional carrier, there is more fees and taxes than the cost of the air seat.
Yeah.
And that needs to be looked into, because you cannot hold the destinations hostage because they don't have airlift. Unfortunately, our clients can't swim to get to our hotels. They need the airlift to get there. And the more hotels and the more you stimulate travel around the region, we should have a client traveling out of, whether it's Moscow, whether it's Brazil, whether it's China, wherever the case may be. Just like when you land in Europe, if you have a Schengen visa, you travel throughout all of the islands, through all of the countries in Europe. It should be the same in the Caribbean. Once you land in the Caribbean, there should be a freedom of movement throughout the Caribbean, and it should not be at an exorbitant cost.
Why are we
Once
still filling out those immigration cards, you know? Now, tell me something. When American Eagle flew to St. Lucia, there was many as 6 or 7 Eagles a day. Okay, you're talking 500 passengers a day. Okay, to me, and that went on for 20 years. So you cannot discontinue a service like that. Now, Seabourn has taken over filled in the slot for American Eagle. It's flying to most of the islands except St. Lucia. How important it is, you think, for Seabourn to be back in business at George Charles Airport? Because what happens that San Juan still remains a very good hub for JetBlue and United. Now, we do quite well on the United flight we get, but it's only one flight a week of 120 people. And I think we pay something like $1.3 million US dollars a year, something like that, whatever it is, okay? But that's for 120 people. But if United has a couple flights a day to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and so does JetBlue, and you can bring the people in there, and you can get 2 flights a day of 40 seats, that's 80, that's 7, 8, 50, that's 560 people a week. That is about 6 times what you're getting on one flight. Does it make sense?
Absolutely, and I think the taxi drivers and the vendors within the George Charles Airport are going to be more than happy to hear to hear news of that. But it's certainly a discussion that needs to be had, and these are some of the short-term solutions that we can action within a very short timeline. But
I mean, are you on the tourist board also?
No, the president of the SLHDA sits on the tourist board.
Okay, right. Well, we need to talk to the president about that to see what he can do, because I think you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that this thing can only be a plus for St. Lucia, you know?
Yeah, well, I understand that there has been some degree of dialogue
with Seabourn?
With towards that end, but I'm not sure what the conclusions of those discussions
are. But that thing, it really needs to be pushed, you know? Yeah. Because, and as I said, it will stimulate the economy at George Charles Airport and also the taxi drivers, you know? Yeah.
Correct. One of the things as well that we've been very pleased to note as an industry over the past few months, we've been able to create and implement a tourism enhancement fund, which has been very well subscribed to by the members of the SLHDA.
How does that work?
We're pacing quite well as it relates to participation by the number. I think in excess of 90% of our membership, member hotels are on board.
How does it work?
It works with a $2 US a night voluntary contribution by the guest. And these funds are used towards marketing, product development, human resource development. Activities that will position the industry to exact stronger gains and ensure that they redound to a community and destination level. And to date, we're pacing quite well. We're really comfortable with the subscription so far, primarily given the fact that it's voluntary. And it allows us as a private sector to take the lead in some of these discussions and to put resources towards some of these negotiations that perhaps the government is unable to avail itself of at this time. And it would be interesting to, armed with that, with those types of funds, to spearhead some of these discussions with some of these carriers themselves and to look at how some of these deals can be brokered and explored.
Tell me something, just before we wrap up. The Bachelor, the movie, is all finished now?
Yeah, and
how did that?
Well, we're still waiting to see the impact that it's going to have on the summer. But if it's anything like what was had before, we can expect to see a heightened degree. I think already we're seeing a heightened degree of visibility and hits on the websites and curiosity about the destination. The hope, the real tale is going to be told over the summer to see if it's going to have any impact on arrivals over the summer period. I think there are concerns about the perception as it relates to some of the personalities within the program and the fact that it might be a bit distracting, and there probably needs to be some short-term marketing to get the attention back to the destination and away from some of the personalities, you know. So
that's wonderful. Yeah, Jeremy, what are your take? How does your organization view St. Lucia for the next couple of years?
Well, Michael, I think we've always been very enthused about what we do in St. Lucia. It's been a great destination for us to operate in. We currently have 3 resorts here with 800 rooms, and we're always looking to grow and expand. Our chairman feels that's the only way you're going to maintain your competitive advantage. The cost of doing business today, you're unable to increase your room rates as you'd like to. Those days are long gone. The heydays of the 80s when you were able to charge an arm and a leg for a room and everybody was traveling because it was all fun and games, that's not there anymore. And if the costs keep getting higher, you need to be able to to spread your income around.
Yeah.
You need to increase the room base so that you can get the volumes coming in to share those expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And in any destination that we currently operate in, we always look at ways where we can expand. Because we just see that it's the best way to do business.
Right.
And if you're going to remain static in the business community in today's world, you're going to be where the dinosaurs are. And I don't think we have any intention to go that way, none whatsoever. So we see St. Lucia's always been on the edge of doing really well, of continuing to do well.
Mm-hmm.
You made mention of the days when there were 7 American Eagle flights a day touching down in JF Charles. And all of those planes were always full.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to come to St. Lucia.
Yes.
Is that the case now? Yes, it is. But there's just so many other places that they can choose
That's
from.
right, yeah.
And there's so many other great products out there. So, we're going to continue to invest a lot in the real estate that we have here, enhance the projects and properties that we have to make sure that whenever anybody thinks about St. Lucia, sandals is always going to be one of the first things that's on their mind.
Yeah. Well, I really hope those overwater suites can come to fruition at some time, and also the beaches, because when I look at the causeway today, I can well imagine how much activity can be created by sandals, and people talk about sandals here, too many sandals hotels, but to me, who is really running the sandals? St. Lucians, they're the ones running it, I mean, really and truly, you have the guidance of Mr. Stewart and people like yourself with the expertise you all have brought here from Jamaica and elsewhere, and we can only say that it can only do well for St. Lucia. Because when I look, for instance, at the Rodney Bay Strip today, I'm quite disheartened what is going on down there. I mean, really and truly, the place is deteriorating rapidly. All these signs, we have offered time and time again from one of our companies to put up 2 large poles and get the people just to put in their slots in them to take off all that crap there. And then, when you pass next to the line, this has been going on for 20 years, there's an odor coming from there, right? And all it takes, believe it or not, is a grease trap to stop it. That's all. And I've said so to the ministry over and over, and it continues, and people have gone on the website, they have gone on TripAdvisor, they have put it there. And also, I mean, we're not here to criticize people, but people like the Rex have to do something, because the restaurants on that strip are dying because of that. I mean, someone told me, for instance, they went to the marina last night, it was jam-packed, and people are just moving to that area, and it is sad because that was a very nice area, and it has to be addressed. So hopefully that something can be done about it. Yeah. What is your take on that?
Well, certainly, tourism holds a lot of promise for the destination, but we are competing on the global scale right now.
Yeah.
I think a large part of the solutions that we bring to bear on the challenges has to be led by, those solutions have to be spearheaded and led by the private sector itself. I think the days of simply depending on governments to actually come in and save the day are gone. As a private sector, we understand the impact on our business on a day-to-day basis. And I think we owe it to our investors and our employees as well in order to take the lead on some of these solutions and to move forward very aggressively and engage other public sector partners and invite them to the table and make it as simple as possible as to how we can fast track some of these solutions.
On a final question here, is St. Lucia ready for, I know most of the conferences on a bigger scale that take place at the Sandals Grand. Is there a need, you would say, now for some sort of a upgraded restaurant, conference center within the area?
Absolutely, and that is one aspect of the product that requires development right now.
Okay.
There are a lot of opportunities. Certainly some of the members of the SLHTA have opined to me that a lot of business is lost as a result of our inability to attract huge groups of individuals for some of these conferences. Because
what size groups are we looking at?
We're looking, it's difficult on the island to find a comfortable facility to hold a conference of 1,000 persons on the island.
And you think there is room for that?
From the information reaching my desk, there is certainly a niche market that has a lot of potential for us as a destination. But we have been unable to tap it, even retrofit certain existing structures to accommodate those volumes. But the potential does exist, and the information reaching my desk is that if we focused on it a lot more aggressively, that there are gains to be had.
But that conference center, should it also come with more rooms, or for the rooms that we have at the center?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is consensus that as we grow the room count, we strengthen the possibility or the access to the destination, and we become a more attractive destination to carriers, right? To air carriers alike. So we would like to see a twinning in that regard. But even in the more short term, as a more short-term measure, as it relates to filling up the room stock within the summer season, for example, a standalone conference facility, still has the potential to fill up some of the void within the short term.
And what is the feedback on after a number of years here, the casino? Has it proved satisfactory to the economy?
I think the performance in that regard has been rather lackluster. I think, like too many other tourism-based initiatives, we galvanize a lot of energy into breaking down a specific barrier without establishing clear indicators as to what we want to be the deliverables from these interventions, right? And from what we're seeing, there needs to be a strengthening of synergies and harmony between the whole casino issue and the traditional hospitality or tourism environment. I personally am not seeing the industry excited as a result of that. Why? I think it has to do a bit with the marketing of the product or that particular niche market itself. I do not think that we're being perceived as a destination generally in which you can have a wonderful casino environment, a casino experience, sorry. And there needs to be a strengthening of that relationship between the accommodation sector and the company offering those facilities, right? So I think first and foremost, we've not tapped the opportunities for marketing and working closely with the accommodation sector. There are tremendous rooms for improvement in that regard.
Yeah. On a parting note, what do you think can be done concerning the levels of harassment and the incidents we have had? Is it growing, or is it just spasmodic? It is growing.
Absolutely, and it's most regrettable because, on an annual basis, the properties themselves spend millions of dollars promoting their brands,
right?
Which redounds to the benefit of the entire destination on a whole. St. Lucia Tourist Board spends a lot of millions every year as well promoting the destination generally. And a lot of these gains and a lot of this increase in visibility can be offset by one simple incident. And we have seen that in the past, and when it happens, everyone is now on the back leg trying to defend or increase marketing spend to cushion with public relations strategies and what have you. And it's horrible. So it's part of the product that needs development again. We have seen an increase, regrettably, in these incidents. The experience of harassment continues unabated on the beaches, on the roadsides. And it is a very unpleasant experience for guests. I don't think any St. Lucians would want to experience that when they visit other islands. But as it relates to safety and security, I always like to focus on the fact that it is not only the visitors and the impact on arrivals that stand to be threatened, but our safety and our security as citizens on the island. A guest will come, spend 5 to 7 days here, and leave. But at the end of the day, if we do not, as a citizenry and as community members, address these issues of harassment and theft and crime, it's going to make the destination an unpalatable and unattractive.
You see, and what I've noticed there, which really worries me, is the fact that when I notice what has just been done to the monument of Sir John, okay, that's number one. Number two, when you tell me you're going into a hospital, St. Jude's Hospital. Number three, you're going into a school. I mean, this is extremely worrying, okay? And something has to be done about that, because really and truly, because that thing goes on the internet the next day. And if we're going to do that to ourselves, what are we going to go to the people coming to our shores,
In large part, I think we don't appreciate the negative impact that these incidents can have on our destination within such a short timeline. From the time with the pressing one button on a computer, it explodes, in social media, and we're all reeling from the negative impact of it, and it continues to affect us all. We do not operate in silos or in a vacuum anymore. Everything we do as individual sectors and as individuals has a cumulative effect on us as a destination.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a very good show. We think we've just run out of time, and I want to thank you tremendously
Thank you
for being here today. I think everything you all have contributed is most informative, and I hope that what takes place here, part of it can be implemented. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Noorani.
You're welcome.
Jeremy, thank you so much.